I never thought I'd see the day a couple of wannabe HOA cops marched up my driveway, pulled a gun, and aimed it straight at my 82-year-old grandpa's chest. They came with fake badges, forged papers, and smug grins, thinking we'd fold under pressure. What they didn't know, what they couldn't know, was that my grandpa still carried his old 1948 Colt tucked behind his back, and he was 10 steps ahead of them before they even got out of the van. My name is Cal Reynolds, and this is the story of how my family ended up in the middle of a war with our homeowners association. We live in Creekwood Estates, North Carolina, one of those neatly planned subdivisions where every mailbox matches and every fence is beige. Well, every fence except ours. Our acre has been in the family longer than the HOA has even existed. Big oak trees tower over our yard, the kind of trees Betty Brown, the president of the HOA, calls a hazard. I call her Karen, though never to her face. Grandpa Jack just calls her that woman. It all started small, like these things always do. One Tuesday, I walked out to grab the mail and found our box smashed flat. I mean, flattened like a soda can, the post bent clean in half. Letters were scattered in the ditch, some torn open. One envelope had the VA seal on it ripped straight down the middle. I froze. This wasn't random vandalism. Someone did this on purpose. And you don't mess with a veteran's mail. That's not just dirty, that's a federal crime. I carried the ruined letters up to the porch. Grandpa was in his rocking chair polishing a pair of old binoculars. He saw my face, saw the torn envelope, and his jaw just locked. He set the binoculars down slow, looked out toward the road, and said in a voice that rumbled low in his chest, "Federal offense. No question, no debate, just fact." I nodded, already dialing the postal inspector's office. That's Grandpa, always about the details. Get a name, get a file number, leave nothing undocumented. While I was on the phone, he disappeared into the garage. A few minutes later, he came out dragging a steel post twice as thick as the old one, a bag of concrete in one hand. He didn't wait for me. He just started digging a new hole. 82 years old, sweat rolling down his neck, digging like he was 40. That stubborn streak runs deeper than the oaks themselves. I hung up with Inspector Martinez, who told me to log everything, take pictures, keep a record. Just as I pocketed my phone, a black SUV rolled past the house. No plates. The window slid down and a guy leaned out with his phone, snapped a picture of me standing there with the busted mail. He smirked, said flatly, "Nice mailbox," then drove on. My skin crawled. Grandpa didn't even glance up from his shovel. "They want you to flinch," he muttered. "Don't." That SUV started showing up every day. Then there were two of them, parked down the street following me to the grocery store, idling at the curb with the windows just low enough that you could see two bulky guys in cheap polo shirts. Embroidered on their chests was some fake-looking logo, an eagle holding a gavel. The Creekwood Estates Compliance and Safety Board. Betty's invention, her private little goon squad. I kept records, photos, timestamps. Still, it ate at me. Every time I left the driveway, I wondered if I was being tailed. Nights felt heavy, shadows thicker. Grandpa called them the welcoming committee and waved from the porch, which drove them crazy. But me, I started doubting. Started thinking maybe Betty was right. Maybe the trees really were trouble. Maybe this whole fight wasn't worth it. One night the house went dark. Every light, every socket dead. I checked the map, no outages anywhere. Then I turned on the faucet. Nothing. Water gone too. I stood in the kitchen, heart pounding, realizing we'd been cut off. Grandpa appeared with an old kerosene lamp, calm as if it were just a storm. They cut the lines at the street, he said, not guessing, just knowing. They want us to panic. I clenched my fists, thinking maybe we should. Maybe we should pack it up and leave before this got uglier. I looked at him, old and worn, needing heat, needing water, and for a split second I thought, I can't do this. I can't drag him through this fight. But he just lit another lamp, steady hands, steady eyes, and said, "They want us afraid. Afraid means they win." That broke something in me. Fear was exactly what they were buying, and I wasn't going to sell it cheap. That same night I spotted two figures in the yard. I grabbed a flashlight and caught them mid-shovel trying to bury a plastic-wrapped brick in our soil. Drugs or something meant to look like it. They froze, then bolted over the fence. My legs shook as I told Grandpa. He only nodded, pointed at the laptop. Camera 3, the one up in the oak tree. Sure enough, clear as day video of them planting the package. We had them. The sheriff came, took the evidence. Martinez looped it into the case. For the first time, I felt like maybe we weren't losing. Grandpa told me to talk to our neighbor Theo, a ham radio nut with antennas sprouting from his roof. Theo hated Betty more than we did. One chat, and he was in setting up a way to broadcast our camera feeds to make their intimidation public. And that's when the balance shifted. A day later, a notice appeared on our door. Heavy paper official seal full of whereas and hereinafter. An emergency order of abatement and removal. Claimed we had 24 hours to vacate. Signed by Betty Brown herself and Officer Markham from County Compliance. Trouble was, the seal was blurry, pixelated, and the signature looked exactly like Betty's handwriting. Grandpa actually smiled when he read it. "This is a gift," he said. "Forgery impersonation of an officer, that's a felony." She just wrote her own confession. The next afternoon, they showed up in 2 white panel vans with that same phony logo. Out came the goons, plus one short, nervous man clutching a clipboard, Markham himself. They marched up like they owned the place. I was on the porch with Grandpa. Markham puffed his chest. "We're here to enforce an emergency order. Vacate immediately." I stepped forward. "We're not going anywhere, and you're not a county officer. We checked." His face drained pale. He waved the paper, stammering. I raised my voice so the recording picked up. "That's a forgery. The seal's fake. The ordinance number's fake, and your signature is a forgery. You're impersonating a public official. That's a felony." One of the muscle-bound guys shifted his hand, resting on the butt of a pistol in an open holster. A threat in plain sight. Grandpa stopped rocking. He stood slow and deliberate, hands behind his back. His voice carried the weight of command, sharp and low. "Son, you need to take your hand off that weapon. You are not law enforcement. And if you pull that gun, I will consider it a threat to my life and my grandson's. You will not like what happens next." The thug's eyes flickered. He hesitated. Then, like the idiot he was, he drew, held the pistol low, then raised it toward Grandpa's chest. Time froze. My throat locked. But Grandpa didn't move, didn't flinch. Behind his back, I knew his fingers curled around his Colt. The street was silent until sirens wailed down the block, loud and fast. At the same time, Theo's voice blasted over a speaker we'd hidden on the porch. "We are live, folks." Goon in a cheap polo, pointing a gun at an 82-year-old war hero. Neighbors spilled out of their homes, phones in hand, watching the live stream and now seeing it in real time. One neighbor carried a tire iron, another a garden rake, just standing there silent witnesses. The thug's face cracked. He realized he'd walked into a trap. Red and blue lights splashed across the vans. Deputies leapt out, weapons drawn. "Drop it now." The man froze, then let the pistol clatter to the pavement, hands shooting skyward. In minutes, all 4 of Betty's hired men were cuffed. Deputies tore through the vans and found more forged orders, fake badges, even a bag of planted drugs. And then Brenda, the HOA treasurer, showed up clutching a manila envelope. Voice trembling but clear, she handed it to Inspector Martinez. "Betty's been cooking the books. She used HOA dues to pay these men. It's all in here, every check, every receipt." That was it, the final nail. Minutes later, official cars rolled up outside Betty's glowing house. State investigators, troopers. The Attorney General's office. The moment she saw them coming, her lights went out. Too late. They busted the door and dragged her out in handcuffs, barefoot in pajamas, screaming at us. "You did this. You ruined everything." No one cheered. No one clapped. We just watched as the woman who'd tormented this neighborhood for years was shoved into the back of a cruiser, her little empire collapsing around her. The deputies had the goons, the inspectors had the ledgers, and Betty Brown's reign was finished. Sometimes the only way to beat a bully is to outlast them, outthink them, and shine a light so bright the whole world sees who they really are.